Silent storytelling is a lost art form. The process of not telling the story through words and sound has an inherent risk of the audience not understanding the story. In this highly profit-driven world, the creators don't want us to miss any of the details they poured their money into, and often force the audience to consume. We ourselves often tell the story of our lives through the megaphone of social media and don't want any of our friends to miss any of the nights out with the Batchas or hashtag no days off. Many of us, however, speak silently through our actions, and I'd like to think that I'm of the silent variety, but hey, what do you know, this is a fucking YouTube video. It's understandable that creators don't want you to miss out on the specifics because that would have been a waste of money, but sometimes, especially in anime, I don't want to be treated like I'm a fucking idiot. I know how guns work and she just won't fucking shut the fuck. Sword of the Stranger gave me the respect I wanted and didn't treat me like I ate glue for breakfast. If you haven't watched it, well, go watch it, and now that you have, you know that this is a staple of action anime. Many of you know the beautiful choreography, the horrible Chinese, and the iconic final fight sequence, which many still hold as the best sword fight in anime history, but I don't think many people know the second story alongside it, the story told through the last fight, the silent story of Nanashi's redemption. Hey, this is Ju from Title Theme, yeah I do intros now, also obvious spoiler alert. Sword of the Stranger, directed by Masahiro Ando, is relatively simple but executed exceptionally well. There are foreigners on the sovereign motherland of Japan, and the Japanese hate it, because everyone was racist back then. Yeah, back then, right? And the foreigners, let's just call them Chinese, want to sacrifice this little bitter boy Kotaro for immortality. Because of this, Kotaro and his best boy hire Nanashi, a strange man with a tied up sword. Nanashi is probably one of the most memorable protagonists for me, partly because I was going through a light emo phase in high school and no one understood my pain, but mostly because of how mysterious and cool he was. I mean, how much do we actually know about Nanashi? We know people call him Akaoni among other names for having red hair and being a demon on the battlefield, and he really likes horses. It is later revealed that he tied his sword with the ribbon of one of the children he was forced to murder for his lord. Beyond this, Nanashi is shrouded in mystery. I think this lack of information is what makes Nanashi such a cool and relatable character. He is haunted by his past, but only to himself. He keeps the pain inside where it belongs and doesn't want to burden others. He calls the ribbon tied around his sword a prayer, but a prayer to what or whom? We don't know. It seems that he keeps the sword around to remind him of the man he was and the man he must never again become. These are the little details in the movie that the characters never say, but the director expects you to put together. Thank you for treating me like a normal human, Ando-sensei. The main story revolves around Nanashi's bond with Kotaro, and through this little boy, Nanashi finds redemption, but the villain Rarou is much more interesting to me. At first glance, Rarou doesn't seem to have many things in common with Nanashi. He enjoys killing for sport, he doesn't care if he's seen as a monster, and has absolutely no problem letting a kid die. Basically a Chad if I've ever seen one, but Nanashi and Rarou have more in common than you think. Their first encounter and the meaning behind it set up the silent story perfectly. The old man has just snared a fish on his line, which is a metaphor for Rarou catching his prey, Nanashi. The two tango for a little bit, but eventually the line snapped. Rarou's concentration is broken and he must let his prey get away. Before their second encounter, the silent storytelling begins. This scene is probably the top 5 scenes I remember, period. His redemption started when he tore away at the cloth. He was no longer bound by his past, and he found a new calling, which was to protect instead of conquer. The last thing Nanashi did before sealing the sword, as far as we know, was kill the children, and the first thing he does when he draws the sword is cleave this dickhead in two and save a child. Also the music, god damn, the music hit right with this scene. For me, the main story ends when Rarou kills his ancient eunuch boss. At this point, all threats to Kotaro are gone and he is saved by Nanashi. This is their second encounter, and this is where Nanashi's struggle begins. All Rarou wanted to do was have some intimate one-on-one time with XX Painboy XX here. It's the final fight. It's supposed to be epic and flashy, but taking a closer look, it's actually pointless. As far as the plot goes, they're not fighting for anything. It's only the life and death of a nameless man. Like I said, Nanashi killed everyone who was a threat to Kotaro because Rarou is very uninterested in the kid. So why are they fighting and why did it leave such a significant impression? Because this is Nanashi's true redemption. Rarou is a reflection of Nanashi, and it is who he feared he would become. They are two characters from a different universe in the same timeline. Remember how I said on the surface level they aren't alike at all? Well, besides Rarou wanting to fucking kill Nanashi for sport, we can go a little bit deeper, baby. Rarou is a relentless killer, but Nanashi is literally Akaoni, so he too is seen as one. This used bedsheet calling Rarou signals that they are both disrespected and even feared by the natives. They're both foreigners who seemingly held similar positions in their respective militaries at one point, and finally both were renowned as the best in their craft by their respective peers. What if Nanashi continued down his path? Could he have become a monster like Rarou? Kotaro is a representation of his redemption, and it seems like Rarou is the embodiment of what Nanashi is haunted by, something he has to overcome. When the fight ends, they are so evenly matched that Nanashi's only saving grace was the jade that Kotaro gave him. The jade falls to the floor, cracking in half, signaling the debt has been repaid. At one point in the fight, Nanashi and Rarou swap swords, and I think this has a very significant meaning. I think Rarou holding Nanashi's sword when he dies meant that Nanashi finally killed and overcame the version of himself that he feared. All of this wasn't told through annoying fucking monologues, but it was silently spoken through their actions. Even the ending wasn't told, but left to our imagination. Many people think Nanashi survived, and many think he died. I'm of the opinion this motherfucker dead. The ending leaves a bittersweet feeling, but to me it makes sense that he dies. My interpretation was the only way that Nanashi was able to be at peace was through death. But at least he died peacefully on the back of a horse with the boy that helped him redeem himself. I still don't know what the prayer was, but I think it was answered.